The Secret History of the American Empire. Economic Hitmen, Jackals, and the Truth About Global Corruption. By John Perkins. This book is the sequel to Perkins's first work, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. In that book, Perkins revealed his role as an economic hitman, EHM, a key agent in a sophisticated system of global exploitation engineered by the United States government, multinational corporations, banks, and institutions like the World Bank and IMF. In The Secret History of the American Empire, Perkins expands on these themes and goes deeper into the mechanics of this empire, illuminating the profound reach of economic manipulation, political coercion, and violent enforcement. Structure and themes. The book is divided into 5 major parts: Asia, Latin America, the Middle East, Africa, and a final section on solutions and transformation. Each chapter is a case study or anecdote showing how nations around the world have been exploited economically and politically for corporate gain, often under the guise of development and modernization. The central narrative hinges on Perkins's assertion that a global corporatocracy, an alliance of powerful financial institutions, governments, and companies, has created an empire unlike any in history. This empire is largely invisible, driven not by colonial armies, but by debt, intimidation, and economic deceit. EHMs like Perkins were at the front lines, luring developing nations into unsustainable loans, and then extracting resources, labor, and political loyalty as repayment. Part 1. Asia. The book opens with Perkins's early experiences in Indonesia. Fresh out of the Peace Corps, disillusioned and angry, he was recruited by Chas T. Main, a consulting firm that acted as a front for U.S. economic interests. He was trained by a mysterious mentor named Claudine, whose seductive mix of allure and indoctrination prepared him for his EHM role. Indonesia was the perfect target, rich in oil and minerals, recently restructured under the U.S.-supported dictator Suharto, and strategically important during the Cold War. Perkins's job was to produce overinflated economic forecasts to justify large infrastructure loans. These loans enriched U.S. companies and the Indonesian elite, but left the country drowning in debt and beholden to U.S. interests. Perkins recounts similarly corrupt operations in Japan, Singapore, Thailand, and the Philippines. Sweatshops, environmental devastation, and suppression of dissent are recurring themes. In each nation, the corporatocracy's method is the same. Seduce leaders with money, overwhelm them with debt, and if they resist, dispatch the Jackals, CIA-backed enforcers who will bribe, blackmail, or assassinate as needed. Part 2. Latin America. Perkins turns next to Latin America, a region he knows intimately. He discusses his experiences in Ecuador and Panama, highlighting how democratic leaders like Jaime Roldos and Omar Torrijos were eliminated after resisting the corporatocracy. The tale of Bolivia and the Bechtel water wars exemplifies how privatization of basic needs, like water, serves as a mechanism of control. Bechtel took over the water supply and drastically increased prices, leading to massive protests. When the people resisted, the state cracked down violently, revealing the complicity between multinational corporations and local elites. Perkins also reflects on Venezuela under Hugo Chavez. While acknowledging Chavez's flaws, Perkins credits him with attempting to free Venezuela from imperial grip. Similar stories unfold in Brazil, Argentina, and other nations, always with the same pattern: economic promises, dependency, exploitation, and collapse. Part 3. The Middle East. The Middle East section reads like a case study in resource exploitation. From Saudi Arabia to Iran and Iraq, oil is the central theme. Perkins describes how the U.S. used the Saudi Arabian money laundering affair Sama to tie Saudi oil to the U.S. dollar, thereby ensuring the dollar's role as the global reserve currency. He recounts the manipulation of Egypt, the devastation of Lebanon, and the strange modernization projects in Iran and Dubai. Israel plays a complex role, both a client state and an enforcer of Western interests in the region. The Iraq-Iran War, according to Perkins, was another EHM success: profit for arms dealers and contractors, chaos for ordinary people. Part 4. Africa. Africa, often described as the forgotten continent, is shown here as central to the empire's interests. Perkins discusses how the continent's immense resources, diamonds, oil, gold, rare earth minerals, make it a prime target for economic warfare. He narrates coups in Congo and Angola, the assassination of activists like Ken Saro-Wiwa in Nigeria, and the role of NGOs as unwitting enablers of exploitation. One chilling anecdote describes Diego Garcia, an island whose entire population was evicted to make way for a U.S. military base. Another shows how mobile phones, laptops, and electric cars fuel a deadly mining economy in Congo, with child labor and environmental collapse as hidden costs. Part 5. Changing the World. The final section shifts from exposure to prescription. Perkins argues that the empire can and must be transformed. He outlines concrete steps: educating the public, using financial leverage to pressure corporations, reforming trade policies, forgiving third-world debt, and pushing for corporate accountability. He emphasizes conscious capitalism, businesses that prioritize people and planet over profits. He cites hopeful examples like fair trade, B corporations, and grassroots activism. Ultimately, he argues that change must begin at the personal level. Our purchases, investments, and political actions matter. If consumers and citizens demand ethical practices, corporations and governments will be forced to respond. Analysis. Perkins's writing is passionate, personal, and unapologetically polemical. He blends memoir with investigative journalism and moral philosophy. Some may criticize him for lacking academic rigor or relying heavily on anecdotal evidence. However, his point is not to provide a dispassionate economic analysis. It's to sound an alarm. The core strength of the book is its first-hand perspective. Perkins doesn't rely on theory, he lived the reality. He participated in these manipulations, profited from them, and then walked away, racked with guilt and seeking redemption. That personal narrative adds authenticity and urgency. At its heart, The Secret History of the American Empire is a book about responsibility. It's about how systems of power entrap not only the victims in the global South, but also the perpetrators in the North. Perkins describes a world where moral compromise becomes the cost of doing business, where democracy is hollowed out, and where progress becomes a euphemism for control. There's also a spiritual dimension to the book. Perkins often speaks of his experiences with indigenous cultures and how they shaped his worldview. He believes that we are at a crossroads where we can either descend further into exploitation and collapse or awaken to a more conscious, sustainable way of living. Conclusion. The Secret History of the American Empire is both a confession and a call to action. It reveals the dark underbelly of globalization, the hidden costs of comfort in the West, and the machinery of economic domination. But it also offers hope. Perkins challenges us to recognize our complicity, to reject apathy, and to believe that transformation is possible. Not through revolution, but through evolution, an evolution of consciousness, ethics, and courage. Whether you're a student of politics, a critic of capitalism, or simply a concerned global citizen, this book will shake you. It will force you to question what you think you know about the world, and perhaps inspire you to change it.